Okay, been poring over the schematic for this radio for a while. Plan was just shotgun all of these electrolytics. A bit of a change of heart about that. I've got a list of, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 electrolytics that are prime suspects just because of where they are in the circuit and what the problem is, what's not working. So I see 4 of them. I haven't printed out the file, the PDF. I probably won't. I'll just sketch out parts that I'm focused on right now. That's what I'm looking at. Part of the FM discriminator, this might be why, this cap might be why. The FM didn't work. If that's open or shorted, there'll be no FM. This one is a coupling cap between the other bits of the radio. That means the output of the FM and the AM in shortwave bands. All got to go through this. If that's open, nothing. And yet the tone control would still work. There'd be noise. There is an RCA jack on this chassis through which you would extract the signals coming from the tuner after it goes through the first audio. Think of that as a preamp, audio frequency preamp, fed through this feed through coupling cap, DC blocking coupling cap. Now that wants AC to go through, block DC. If that thing's open, nothing's getting through. I think there is. It's hard to tell, but that's got to go. So these two prime suspects in the audio circuit. This one might be okay, but it's one of those stupid plastic tubular things with the epoxy seals. Those things, like I said before, are horrible, notorious. I could inject a signal into this as well as take out of it. I may do that before I set to working on things. Well, I am going to replace these two caps before I do anything. It's important for other reasons. This one, well, the position of these, as far as how they're mounted in this chassis, they're not easy to get to like these guys are. So, looking at where these are in the circuit, I don't think they're the cause of the problem. This one might be. This one definitely not. That's just a power supply filter. That could be open. I'm putting DC in. It's working. I'm seeing no hum, so hearing no hum. This one could be. I'll take a quick check of that before I swap it out. I'm going to swap it out, but I'm a bit interested in what specifically has gone wrong. And there's some prime suspects with the FM discriminator circuit. This electrolytic. That would explain why the FM makes the hiss but no audio. Just can't it can't detect the modulation. This one, primary suspect. That's why 3 stars. It is a coupling cap between the output of the actual radio parts and the input to the audio amplifier that drives the speaker. The fact that I do get noise through the speaker says to me, the output section's working just fine, at least marginally. This one here, yeah, okay, that one's on the other side. Problem is, of all the capacitors that are prime suspects, they're the ones that are most difficult to get to because they're up here. Let me move this back. And let's see, I need a pointer. It's this one, these 2 blue guys. I can get to those fairly well without too much grief. And this one. And then there's this guy over here. He's going to be That's going to be salty, because even with this access panel here removed, it doesn't give me access down where I need to get, down in here. This is the RCA jack. That's the where you can output to a high fidelity amplifier and have the AM or FM output through that. So you don't have to use the speaker and amplifier that's built into here. You can really crank it up if you are into that. So that cat needs to come out and be swapped. I am sure I can manage this. What I'm going to do, it's just going to be a pain in the butt. What I'm going to do is replace these two first, because this Z-Pack here, this is part of the FM discriminator circuit. It's all it is inside this thing. It's a 3-lead. It looks like a rectangular shaped ceramic capacitor, which it kind of is, but it's also got resistors in it. 2 resistors, 2 capacitors in that. It's a network. I think they did it that way because those components need to be fairly well matched, and with temperature changes and so forth, those 4 components, 2 resistors, 2 capacitors, being all in the same package would facilitate that. Not to mention, with the common coils they used back in those days, the RC network there was always the same. So it kind of made sense to, make that one package rather than having to string out 2 resistors and 2 capacitors for that network. So it may have been nothing more than a cost reduction, or a combination of cost reduction and reliability in terms of temperatures. I don't know. You can look it up. I probably will later. Anyway, the Z-Pack is in the way of getting down to the terminal I need to solder to, or at least the wire. It's very short, like the wire on the bottom of this electrolytic cap. So I need to get in there. But first I'll replace these 2. Once I do that, I'm going to take this and bend it down to give me a little more clearance. I think I can muster that down to get the bottom side of this cap out. Bottom meaning that way. Ugh. Yeah. Well, I'm going to replace those 4, and then I'm going to try it. I'll plug everything in and see if that helped. I got a pretty good idea that it will. If it doesn't, I'll probably swap out some of those other caps I know are lower tier of suspicion. So, and then kind of take it from there. I'm not going to film me replacing capacitors. It doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, although it depends. I may show how it is I do it, depending on how things go with down here in the catacombs. For example, I'm going to replace this guy, and it's a much easier way, because it's so big and they're so long leads, much easier way to show it, show how it is I do it for a repair, not a restore. If I'm doing a restore, well, that means pulling all the solder off of the terminals, rewrapping the new component around and soldering to make it look like it was never. I'm not doing that with this radio. This, because of the corrosion and so forth, and the condition of the cabinet, which isn't horrible, but it's not pristine. It's not highly valuable for that as a collectible. I want it to work. And the other advantage down the line about not relacing the wires as they were originally, in other words, if I splice a capacitor into here, that signals to the next technician working on it, or hobbyist, that cap had been replaced. it's obvious when you see that. You know that was not factory. So it serves as a pointer. This was replaced, this was replaced, this was replaced, like that. A full restoration, yeah, I would not do that, but that is so tedious, and I'm not doing it on this. I've done it, and that's a lot of time and work to do that. And then once you get the chassis all pretty, then you got to worry about the cabinet. No, screw that. I'm just worried about making this work again, repair. And I'm pretty sure that a recap in places will do it. I want to know what went wrong. I'll find out, because every cap I snip out of here, I'm going to test, and I know where they came from. So if I find out specifically which one and where it is in the circuit, I certainly will mention that as things progress. So, time to recap a couple.